Anglers of the internet, welcome back to another Advance Kayak Angler podcast brought to you by Fishing Online, fastest shipping on the internet. I'm your host, Kurt Smits. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Now let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody. It's another week. It's another podcast. We got a good one for you. We're going to kind of take a step back from our name of Advance Kayak Angler and talk about some of the basics of safety. We had an angler earlier this year who unfortunately lost his life on Santee Cooper, and his life vest was attached to his kayak, and you really should be wearing it. And my condolences go out to his family and stuff, but I thought it was a good time to maybe remind people or help some of the newer people out with some of the different ways you can keep yourself safe and on the water. And we got a great group. We got a great guest tonight. We got Seth from Fishing Online and Matt Ball. How you guys doing?
Good, man.
Yeah, doing well as well.
So, and I almost forgot, we're starting, this will be the first time we talk about the $50 gift certificate giveaway that thank you, Seth, from Fishing Online is doing for us.
Yeah, buddy.
All you have to do is like Smitty Fisher Instagram, like and tag someone on Fishing Online's Instagram. And that's all you have to do. And we're going to run it till the end of the month, and then we'll pick a winner, and then I'll get in touch with you.
Very cool.
So now that we got that passed, we're on the water in our sport, and that's like you're almost in constant danger of the water. We love the water, but we're also in danger from the water. Different ways to keep safe, different style life vests to help us keep safe. I just thought we'd kind of go over some of the different ones tonight. I know, like me personally, I wear an inflatable during the summertime, and then I wear one that's not inflatable, that's just like the styrofoam inside it, the NRS Chinook in the wintertime. Seth, you want to start us out on some of the different ones you guys have there and some of the different ones you've seen and have some experience with?
Absolutely. So yeah, like you said, the Chinook is probably the most popular amongst kayak anglers, and I think there's no question about that. And that kind of comes from the features it has, and by that I mean the pockets, the accessory attachment points, overall comfortability. And I think when you're talking about the people that don't wear the PFD, they probably have one that's not comfortable for them. So spending if you look around, you can find some great deals. Like right now, that Chinook is on closeout, the prior year model. So you can get a great deal on a Chinook, and then you have no excuse not to have a comfortable PFD. And if it's comfortable, you're probably going to wear it, right? Now, with that said, the Chinook has that high back kind of styrofoam in the back, and not everyone likes that. So NRS does have some other options, just kind of have the flat back. I think that's called there's a Xander, and then there's some cheaper options like the new one that came out is the Wrangler, and I think the Wrangler has the high back as well. Someone like yourself who likes inflatables, they have the Automatic, and I like an inflatable in the winter or in the summer as well. It's super light, super comfortable. You can barely even notice it's there. The big thing with those, though, is just making sure that you're doing the maintenance on them and making sure that you're armed and ready to go. So that way, if you do fall in and whatever, emergency happens, it actually deploys, or it has at least the manual deploy and you know how to use it. A lot of people just have them for years and years, and maybe that deployment doesn't work, right? They haven't tested it before, never tried it before. Definitely get a rearming kit, try it so you know how it. There's a video of me somewhere out there doing it for a commercial, and I didn't realize how aggressively that thing pops open on you. And so Fishing Online, we carry a lot of the NRS lineup. There's a lot of recreational fishing, basic PFDs, all kinds of different types. Getting away from NRS, there's Onyx and Absolute Outdoors. They carry some great inflatables. Honestly, if you're wearing a PFD, doesn't matter what brand it is, you should just be wearing it, you know, and that's why it's a requirement for most tournaments. So yeah, that's my spiel.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
I'm
so
glad
for
you
me,
brought up the rearming thing. And go ahead, Matt. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead on the rearming, because I was gonna mention that too.
You go ahead. You go ahead. I talk all the time. So
No, so you know, one thing that I personally, you know, I'm on the water a ton, and I fish a lot of rivers, and I fish a lot of dangerous rivers, and you know, I get into the white water and in my kayak, so I use both style. Um, you know, I grew up not really always having a life jacket with me um, when I was, you know, in a canoe or whatever. And really, you know, I look back at pictures of myself years ago, you know, in my 20s, or, you know, years ago in my 20s and teens, upper teens, you know, going down some of the Greenbrier River and the South Branch and not wearing a life jacket, but it was there, you know. And looking back, you know, it's something that you feel invincible when you're young, and you're not wearing them. You know, you have them there because it's what you have to have with you, you know. But you know, I began wearing them, and now I feel naked without it. But what I wanted to, you know, kind of talk about on the PFDs was, you know, I wear the Chinook. That's been the one that I've wore from the very beginning when I started really wearing it all the time, because it's more of a tackle management system for me when I wear that, you know, especially on the rivers. But I also use the automatic by NRS as well, and I carry an arming kit. You can get them at Fishing Online. Just keep those. I keep those in a dry bag and some of the necessities, you know. But I've started using the inflatable. But one thing I highly recommend as far as the rearming kit is, you know, really, it's not that expensive. Those CO2 cartridges, they will, you know, they will go bad after a while. And then especially the ones that are automatic, there's that wafer that detects the water. You've really got to, the rearming kits come with a new one of those and everything. And you buy the rearming kit for your PFD. But, you know, pop that thing off. I don't know that I would. I'm sure the manufacturer, Seth may know, but what they recommend. But, you know, every couple years, just pop that thing off and get used to the way it feels and how it works, and redo the arming kit. But what that does, it familiarizes yourself with how to actually rearm it and to fold it back in and, you know, get everything set up. Because it takes a little bit of practice to get that thing screwed on there and how to put the bobbin in the right way to make sure that it's all set up right. You don't want to not have it done right. You want that thing to work, or else you're wearing a piece of fabric around your neck that's not really going to do you any good. You know, they do have, a lot of them have a manual inflation where you can just blow air into it if you need to, you know, to pump them up if nothing worked. But if you're in the water, and I've been in the water, I've been in the cold water, that's not something you're thinking about. So,
and that's really like the story here is that when this happens, it's an unexpected incident. You know, you're not planning to take a dunk. You're not planning to be in a dangerous situation. So especially knowing how to react to it with the inflatable ones is super important. To actually know if you do have an automatic or one that you actually do have to pull the cord, you know, because I've met some people who didn't know, and I actually met someone at a ramp when we were talking about it, and they had worn their inflatable for several years, but they never armed it themselves. And the CO2 cartridge was in it, but it wasn't screwed in. It was like it was still all in this little plastic, like saran wrap and everything.
yeah, it had never
I was
been.
like, hey man, let me just screw this in for you real quick. And you know, and they just didn't know. It was like, you know what I mean? It wasn't like they were intentionally like trying to blow it off. They were trying to be safe. They just didn't know.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, and the inflatables to me, it's just like, it's maintenance. You really do. You have to do the maintenance to them because, like you said, Matt, those CO2 cartridges, I don't know what it is, whether it slowly leaks out or whatever happens, but once you pierce them and get it armed, that they'll go bad after a few years.
Mm-hmm.
And, and you want to also watch it for the temperature range because they say they don't fully inflate once you get below us. I guess it's right around freezing.
Yeah.
They start having problems with it.
Well, I've actually been in the water with my Chinook in an actual dumping situation in some really rough waves that happened to me on the I was wearing full, all my clothing. It was October. It was on Lake Erie. Myself and Russell Johnson, we were out in some waves that were probably not, the best idea. And my boat took on water. And honestly, when I went in, I realized how helpless you are. As much as I know how to swim, when you're out there and you've got all that clothing on, you can't, you can't swim. I mean, I would literally would have had to have, I had on the NRS, boundary boots and the NRS bibs that have the feet built into them. I can't remember the name. I'm going blank there, but with having that all on, I wasn't going to get that off in the water. Now, luckily they are designed to be in the water, so no water got in them, but it was just crazy. And it's, I needed it. Trying to flip your kayak back over, trying to get back in it, not having that PFD is crazy. Now, I personally have never been in the water and had my automatic inflatable go off. So I've never had that happen. I have discharged it and inflated it just for fun, but I've never actually floated. But, I think about that when I'm on, if it's super cold and I know that I'm in a situation where if I go in the water, it's going to probably be bad. I'm probably wearing the Chinook. I'm leaving the inflatable at home. And I'm going to wear that Chinook. But in the summer, the water's warm. You're fishing a lake where there's not a lot of hazards. That's where I like to wear the inflatable. But I spend a lot of times in the river, and even in the summer, I don't like to wear the inflatable because, on the rivers, I don't like to wear the inflatable because I'm probably going to more than likely at some point fall in, even because you're wading and you're slipping and you're out of the boat a lot, dragging up through shoals. And if you fall in with that, you don't want to go around all day with an inflatable inflated around your neck all day.
Yeah, because they inflate a lot.
Yeah.
For the people who haven't ever seen one fully inflated, go ahead and Google it. It's not just like it doubles in size; it's like quadruples in size.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine trying to blow one up like an emergency situation, and you fall in the water, and let's say wherever reason it didn't go off. I couldn't imagine being like getting air and swimming and blowing, and that would be
that's like a real emergency backup. You got to be conscious. If you fall and hit your head, you're not blowing anything up.
So what's helped me honestly become more wanting to wear the PFD, and I feel naked in a kayak without it, all the time, because I've got my tools in it, and that's the beauty of the Chinook. And that's, the Chinook is just, it's designed to where, I don't have to, if I'm going out to the strip mines up here in Ohio, I can pretty much put everything I need in that PFD and not be packing around a whole bunch of other tackle. I take, small tins, and I'll put a few tungsten weights, some hooks, the things that I'm going to need. I got it in there. I put in jig heads. I fish, little shaky heads all the time. So I'll have a variety of those in there, and I leave them in the pack and just kind of put them in there. and I can keep my phone, because if I'm fishing, I'm probably fishing in some sort of online where I need to take a picture or something.
Yep.
And I've got my phone tethered to it. Now that is one thing that I will say about the NRS automatic. It is one of the few inflatables that I have found. I carry an iPhone Pro Max, which is the biggest, the big phone with a case on it. You can fit that phone in the pocket of that NRS. It will fit in there. And so that is why I use that one. And I use it a lot but I can't carry tackle in it,
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. I didn't realize there was enough room to fit that big a phone in there.
Yep. You can carry in that pocket. You got to kind of put it in there, and it's tight, but I've got the Pro Max and it fits in there. I don't have a waterproof case. You don't really need a waterproof case for phones nowadays, as long as you got a newer phone, and it fits in there. And I've got a little tether attached to my phone. I don't know that, I've just got like one of those tabs under the case where you can hook a carabiner through, and I just stick it in there, and I've actually got it on a retractor that I've got on one of the loops, and it just goes straight into my pocket, so it's never not attached to my life jacket.
Yeah, that's probably one of the number one accessories you should buy if you're getting a PFD, is some sort of tether for your phone, especially if you're going to keep
the new Yak Attack tether. They're coming out.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have those in stock yet, but
yep, we do. So yeah, I was on that first national championship, or not the first national championship, but the national championship for 100,000 down in Kentucky Lake. I just kept my phone right in my front pocket of my chinook, went out to the dock, got down. I'm like, oh wait, I got to grab my keys out of my hatch. Bent down off the dock. It fell right out of my pocket in 9 feet of water. And I jumped in for it. And I'm like, oh my God, it's cold. And took my breath away. And I was like, oh no, this is a mess. And I didn't get my phone. Yeah, lost it.
Pro tip: get a good tether.
That's right.
Good tether works. The other thing I'm going to tell you real quick, I'll talk your ear off just so you know. But so I was on the Susquehanna, and wading up river through some pretty nasty white, rapids. And I ended up, and there's actually a video of it. I ended up I had my fishing rods behind me, and of course, how we do as kayak anglers, you reel everything up to the end and you leave it hanging off the end. And I ended up getting a bull shad stuck on my hat and then on the back of my life jacket, and it was with braid, and I couldn't get loose. I had my head pinned back. I was in a rapid. The kayak was, so having a knife on your PFD can be a lifesaver. Having that on there to be able to reach back and cut that braid, I would have not, there's no way I could have probably broke my rod and got scissors out of my kayak, but I had that right there, and it's that NRS knife attached there. It stays there. It can't come off, and it's awful handy. And it could save you, especially a good friend of ours, Kurt, that we all know, that he if you remember, I might have been the year you won the national championship. It was either the year I won or the year you won it, but he almost died because he had braid wrapped around his boat flipped, and he had braid wrapped around his pedal drive. Ken Wood, I think was his name. He had a bad situation, real bad. If you go out, I think he ended up flipping because he had braid wrapped around all of his stuff, and then it was cold, and having a knife could get you out of a lot of issues right there.
Yep.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of the things I wanted to bring up. That was like another part of your safety, like stuff you have on your body, is having a knife. And I have no affiliation with NRS, but they make some of the best knives to have on your person for water stuff because they have the right. I don't know what their mechanism's called, but they like pop off.
Yeah, it clicks in and come off.
The sheath or whatever they got one.
Yeah, it's like easy on, easy off. Some of them have blunt tips, so you can like, if you have to get behind you, you won't stab yourself in the neck. Yeah,
most all of them have that blunt tip, and you can use it.
Yeah, this one doesn't. That's why I don't use it on my kayak. But yeah, the blunt tip, smart, so you don't accidentally stab yourself. And then most people, at least, this is the advanced kayak angler, so most people know that little section here on your PFD is specifically for attachments like this. But this clips right on there.
And you can't hardly get it off after you put it on.
Yeah, it's good. Yep.
These small little people may think it's like a small little thing, or I see some people with like the fold out knives. I'm like, if you're in a true emergency, it's going to be so hard to operate that stuff. That's why the NRS stuff, and I'm sure there's other manufacturers that make nice knives as well. I'm just familiar with the NRS stuff, and it just works so well.
Yeah, it does.
And you don't lose it either.
No.
Right? Like you said, once you put that on there, it's not going anywhere.
And I know it's a little pricey, but that titanium one is absolutely crazy. You don't even notice it there. It is so light. That's a really good one. Man,
I was just eyeballing that today, actually. I was looking at that. I was thinking about the show. I was like, man, that's a sweet looking knife, man. And being titanium, right? No rust.
Yeah, it doesn't rust. It's actually, I've got a couple of the NRS knives on different life jackets, and I've never had rust on any of them. The titanium is just super light. I mean, crazy light.
And Seth, how much do those start at roughly? Just like a basic knife.
You can get the Pilot for $50 at $49.95. So
it's really not bad price for some extra safety,
and it's going to.
Yeah, let alone as fishermen, how many times do you need a knife or something to snip here and there, and just going, oh, I have it right here, rather than digging around for something else, whatever, But yeah, definitely something you should add to your PFD.
I had stepped out of my kayak one time, and it was along the Ohio. It was in a tributary of the Ohio River, and it was really muddy right where I stepped. I kind of sunk into it, and man, I had stepped into a bunch of catfishing line. I didn't even know it until I tried to pull my leg back out, and I twisted when I moved, so it just like locked onto my leg. And man, if I didn't have a knife on me, it would have just sucked really bad, because it still kind of sucked because I almost fell in the water again. But I was able just to pop my knife off, reach down there in the mud. I couldn't even see where it was, dig around and cut the line. Just stuff like that. Yeah, it just happened when you need a knife. It's going to be one of those moments again where it's just like comes out of nowhere. It's not something you can see coming at you.
Yep.
It's no big deal, but if you can't see it coming, that's when stuff bites you in the ass.
Yeah.
So what other stuff do you guys carry that's like a safety item that maybe the average person doesn't carry?
I carry a first aid kit in a dry bag, just a kit that I made myself. I've ran fish hooks through my self, and you cut yourself out on the water, you don't want to quit fishing if it's not horrible, and you want to be able to try to take care of that or whatever, but I keep a small safe first aid kit that's they make some great kits out there that are actually designed. I just made my own of just some simple stuff, Band-Aids and some gauze. I put black electric tape in it because you can use black electric tape to seal up cuts and put a finger back on if you cut it off and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, Yak Attack just put out a whole little med kit now. So
Yak Attack's been doing some really good little those little packs that they've been making. and the little containers and stuff they've been making for the black pack.
Yep.
Yep.
Also, you got to have a whistle usually. I mean, if you ever get checked, there you got, and that's one thing that's nice about the. I know there's little places down in the pocket where you can, attach a whistle to where it can, you can get it out and use it if you need it.
Yep.
Another perfect thing to have on a retractor. I personally really like the retractors.
Yep.
Because I can put my whistle on there and have a small retractor over it and have it on my PFD, and it's totally out of the way the whole time.
Yep.
And then I can pull it down and use it.
Yep.
Same with my phone. Same with like everything I have on my kayaks on some type of retractor.
Oh yeah.
Do you guys so beyond what you carry on yourself for safety, I always like to have like a flag, especially when I'm on like big water, and I use the Yak Attack one. I'm sure Matt does too. I mean, it's like the gold standard.
Yeah.
And it's got a light on top, so you can launch pre-dawn and be legal and stuff. How important do you guys feel like that is? I feel like it's really important on big water.
It is.
Yeah. Anywhere there's a boat, I think any way to get some sort of visibility where they're unrestricted or something like that. I think that's huge.
Well, we feel like when we're on the water with all the gear that a lot of us guys are carrying, we feel like a very large vessel out there, but we are not. We are tiny when it compares, especially you get out on some bigger water. A lot of the lakes that we're traveling to, or even, Lake Erie, a lot of the, like Kentucky Lake, all of these lakes that have a lot of traffic. One place in particular I'll mention is when I've went to Florida. If you go to Florida, I would not be in Florida, especially the Kissimmee chain, without a flag. And honestly, I usually put a flag on my power pole because of the grass, because the airboats will literally run you over. They are flying through the grass and they can't turn like a regular boat does, so, usually I'll take the flag off of my Yak Attack pole and put it on my power pole, which is way in the air. Cause I've had bass boats come up to me and say, dude, he said, we couldn't even see you out here, especially until you get up close. They're not looking for us like they, we don't show up. And especially you go out on like Lake Erie or anywhere like that, you need to have a flag because just the rolling of the waves, you disappear. If they just glance around, they probably don't even see you at times.
And depending on all these, newer kayaks, the camouflage, you blend right in with the bank, there's no way of you sticking out, so anything brightly colored or whatever is a nice addition to the kayak.
Yeah. The other thing that safety that we're required to have it, but any of us that are running motors, you got to have navigation lights on these kayaks. And, I know for me, I've got them mounted permanently. There's multiple options. Fishing Online sells multiple options that you can mount on your boat and run with. It doesn't take much battery power at all to power these LED lights that'll light up your boat. So you got to have that. There's different versions. Actually, I don't know if Fishing Online sells it, but I won a, what's it called? I keep it as a backup in case my lights go out. Oh, I can't think of the name of it.
Is it one of those
Guardian Angel.
Oh, yeah.
It's a Guardian Angel, and it's got red and green on both sides. And actually, that's what I use on my inflatable because I have a motor on my inflatable, and there's no way to mount lights. So I just stick it on one of my tackle boxes on the front of the boat when I'm using it. So it works really well. But you got to have that red and green light if you got a motor on them. So,
Yep.
Yeah, and I feel like the more lights you can have, the better, honestly. I always realized that we weren't like real visible, but until I was working a booth, and I'm not going to name the pro who said this to me, because I don't know if I didn't ask him if I could or anything, but he's a big name pro. Everybody would know him. He runs a boat 1,000,000 miles an hour all the time. And I was talking to him, and he's just like, man, why are you guys out in the middle of the lake? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's just like, he was like on Kentucky Lake, I go out there and you guys are like out fishing the ledges. I'm like, well, yeah. He's just like, I cannot see you. Mm-hmm. He's like, I just can't see you. He's like, I don't care that you're out there. He's like, I just can't see you. And he kept on saying it over and over, like, as we were talking, like, because I didn't realize like how invisible, just not like that we're kind of hard to see, but like we're like invisible to him. And it just really kind of opened my eyes, because he's someone who runs full out, like a lot of guys do. Mm-hmm. And he has a lot of skills and been doing it for years. And he's saying how hard we were to see. Yep. And it just kind of opened my eyes. And I met some people, doing these different tournaments at Seminole who had some crazy lights on their kayaks. And I was asking them about it. And their whole thing was that they almost got ran over. Like, I guess a boat actually hit one of them one time, mm-hmm. And it's just like all these little things I start picking up on it. And and then I got in a friend's motorboat, and we were running around a lake, and there were some people who weren't kayak fishing. They were just kayaking, but you couldn't see them. They were like in blue or gray kayaks, and they just disappeared. Like, you'd look around 1 second and you would see them, and then you'd turn around and you couldn't see them again. Yep. So anything you can do to be bright and obnoxious, is just incredibly important on the water.
I agree.
So when you, and I feel like sometimes too, if newer people are listening to this, going with a buddy is an underrated safety precaution, and going with a friend. And I feel like that, I'm a little bit of a lone wolf, and I tend to do stuff by myself a lot. But, when you're first starting out, that's the buddy system is like the best system.
Yeah. And if you go out by yourself, which a lot of anglers do, just leave a note somewhere where someone saying, hey, I'm hitting this, should be done around 4. Just so someone has a record of where you went, God forbid something happens, but something like that, a simple text to wife, girlfriend, whoever, just so they know the general area you're in, is a huge help.
Yeah, I text my wife my location, like the ramp I'm going to, because I'll tell her I'm going fishing somewhere, and she doesn't go with me. She's not into fishing. Exactly. If something, God forbid, if something ever did happen, she'd be like, he went fishing. Or I think he went on the Ohio River. I mean, that's a big river, like a lot of places to launch. So I make it easier on her, and I'm like, I'm launching downtown Cincinnati, or I'm launching Licking River, or wherever I'm launching from.
Well, I usually if I'm fishing, if we stay together, I usually put a tracker on your boat, so I know where you've so I can usually let people know where you're at.
I appreciate that, man.
There's an air tag on your boat that I
I wonder if anyone's ever had that happen to them, right? Because like your phone will tell you, right? Like if you're around an air tag long enough, it'll be like,
it'll tag. I think there's probably some other brands that don't do that, though. There's probably someone that has their truck tagged and
sure.
You're at this ramp too. Yeah.
Why do we end up at the same ramp all the time?
That'd be so sneaky. That'd be so sneaky.
Well, the other thing that you got to remember when we're out here doing this stuff, a lot of at least for me, where I fish, there's a lot of these places that I'm going, and that's the beauty of a kayak, that you're going in the out of the way places. You don't have cell service a lot of places, so you can't rely on having a cell phone to get you out of a jam. So if you don't have your cell phone, or if you can't call, or if you drop it, you're not wearing a PFD, you don't have the right safety equipment, you don't have something to stop a cut or stop a bleeding if you cut yourself, or step out of the boat and cut your foot really bad, or whatever. You kind of got to plan that you're on your own out there when you're doing this. And, you got to just kind of look out for yourself when you're doing this. And that's where the PFD comes in. That's where having the safety equipment with you, knowing how to use it. You can get in trouble out there. It's not as bad when we're fishing these tournaments, but that's not what everybody's out there doing. There's a lot of guys that are going as far back in as these places that they can to try to find fish, and they're by themselves, and nobody knows where they're at. Nobody knows, if something happens to them, it may be a while before anybody finds them. And so you got to be ready to take care of yourself out there. I think that's something that I think more and more about, when I, with having, once I had kids, and then now that I'm getting older, I'm thinking, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. You gotta be ready for things to happen.
Yep. Self-reliance. That's a big part of it. You need to be ready to, like you said, take care of yourself, because there may not be someone quickly to come save you. And because let's face it, even if your cell phone does work and you're way back up at some little creek, it may take them hours to get to you to help you out. And if you got like a big cut and you're bleeding, I mean, that could be a serious problem.
Yeah.
I know we're talking about PFDs here, but that's one thing that I will say that I feel like is a huge safety aspect in kayak fishing is having a motor. You've got, it gives you a little bit of peace of mind that if you're out and the weather turns and you're going to be possibly getting yourself in a bad situation, you can motor out. That's one of the overlooked aspects, safety aspects, that having a Torqeedo or whatever brand you choose, that you can go out there and have peace of mind that you can get back. Or if you're out there and you get sick and you can't physically, don't have the energy to paddle, you can motor yourself back. Something that not everybody's going to have a motor. That's not what I'm saying. You don't have to have a motor, but that is a big safety aspect for, fishing with weather that comes up, and anything like that, emergencies, helping get somebody else out of a situation. I've done that with my kayak, with my motor. I've went out and found somebody that was having trouble, or had flipped, or had a boat full of water, or was taking on water, and pulled them back, got them back to safety. The motor improves a lot of things about your fishing out of a kayak, but the safety aspect is one that I think needs to be stressed a lot more.
Yeah, you don't think about that when you're buying a motor, right? You're not thinking about, wow, this could save my butt one day, but you're absolutely right. I can remember being on St. Clair, and I went way back up one of those little reed creeks that they have on the north end, and I got sick. I got like violently ill from eating something the night before, and I dare say I don't know what I would have done without a motor. I don't think I could have paddled myself back, because it came on so quick. Like, I felt fine. I'm drinking my coffee, I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. I'm just motoring way back. And then all of a sudden I got sick. And without that motor, I wouldn't have been able to get back to the ranch, and that's not something most people think about with the motor, but it adds another layer of safety, And to add to the motor, you don't want that to be your only propulsion. You, of course, want to be multi.
Got to have the paddle.
Got to have the paddle.
That's something I will say. With the influx of motors in the sport, you would be surprised how many people I have seen out on the water that do not have a backup plan. They don't have a paddle. I've seen people rowing back to shore with a stick. I've seen people trying to row back to shore with a net. So you got to have that backup.
Yeah. Even on my Hobie, I have the motor, the drive, and the paddle.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just scared that something's bad's gonna happen sometime. Yeah.
That's funny.
Well, guys, so we've covered a lot of the PFD safety. We've gone over some other safety stuff. Is there any other things you can think that can help that maybe like someone newer to the sport may need to know, or may seem like common sense to us that we might be overlooking? I'm sorry?
Dressing appropriately. Like, that's probably, when I first got into it, I was wearing jeans and a hoodie, and that's not going to cut it when it's cold out. And I got the pair of the Sidewinder bibs. Those are sealed up and they have the belt so water can't get down in them. And then I put a coat on and then my PFD, and that usually helps keep most of the water out, even if I go in. So
I tell you, having a small dry bag with just some thermal underwear or something warm that you can put in there, that if you do go in the water, you do get wet, you're going to be able to strip down and put something dry against your skin. You don't have to carry a lot. I carry some heavy fleece in there, and actually I carry a hoodie. Usually I keep a hoodie and some fleece that are tightly wound up and in a dry bag with a lighter. I keep a lighter in there in case I ever got completely soaked and needed to warm up, because I've been super cold before. And it's debilitating when you get that cold. You can't function. You're like, you shake so hard you can't even do anything. You got to warm yourself up.
Yep.
And you'll lose your motor function too. Yeah. People don't realize it's like you can barely grab things when you get super cold because your body's just not working.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, and that's one of the things that, is a hard one for a lot of people to get is dressing right for the conditions. Because even when it's sunny and 60 degrees outside, if the water's like 40 or 50 degrees and you fall in, you're still going to be really, really cold. I mean, that's dangerous water. I feel like that water is more dangerous than when it's super cold, because when it's super cold, right? And there's just no question. It doesn't, because when it's sunny and 60, it looks great out. It feels great. When you're dry and the sun's hitting you, you're probably a little too hot wearing stuff. But then if you fall in the water, all that changes and you're not going to be warm.
Takes your breath away and you're like, it's almost like a shock.
I'll tell you one more safety aspect for kayak anglers that needs to be really something that if you're getting into kayak fishing, you need to learn how to properly strap a kayak to either the top of a roof rack or whatever you're doing. You've got to learn how to do that. One, without getting it to where it's going to slip off of the top of your truck, or you're not going to damage your kayak by using ratchet straps and cranking them down and cracking it, or in my case, not too long ago, just completely forgetting to strap your boat down and taking off down the road at 60 mile an hour and losing it off the back of a trailer. But a lot of people don't know, they think, well, I got a kayak, I'm going to throw it on the back of the truck, and they just barely put a strap, they put one ratchet strap around it, and those kayaks shrink and contract. They get in the sun, they expand and contract. And if you have a strap on that thing and it gets cold overnight, the loops, if it's just tied on with a hook from a strap, that can come off and you can lose your whole thing. And you're not only going to lose your kayak, you could probably kill somebody on the road.
Yeah.
So just learn how to actually take an actual, Yak Attack strap or something that's just the cam strap, how you double it over and how to actually do that. You'd be surprised how many people they'll see one of those cam straps. It's just one long strap with a cam on the end, and they don't really know, honestly, how to use it. That's one of the best ways to strap a kayak down, for the fact that
100%.
it's not going to come off. And if you strap it in the front and the back, it's not going to come off, even if it loosens. So,
yep.
That's a really good point, because I see so many people using straps with hooks on them. And like you said, they expand, they contract. You hit a bump, they flex.
mm-hmm.
Man, a hook comes off. Where if you're looping a strap around something completely and then going up and over your kayak and then around something else completely, there's no chance of it. It may loosen.
It's going to loosen.
But it's not coming off.
Yeah, unless the strap was to somehow snap, which is highly unlikely. How strong they are. It's impossible for it to slip through that.
But that hooks are not really. I've seen people with round bars they'll take a strap over and they'll hook that hook on the bar and take it over and use that ratchet strap and snug the kayak down. And if that hook just comes off, you don't have a strap anymore. So
I live just up the road from a very popular put-in for the river by me. And every summer, at least 3 or 4 times, there's kayaks in the middle of the road.
Oh yeah,
people are just coming and going. They're not using them. They're only using one, and yeah. And if you think about it, that is really. I think it's funny, but it is really unsafe. Like if it came off and bounced into an oncoming car or something, that could be like really bad. Well, guys, we've talked for about 45 minutes or so. I want to thank you guys for your time. I want to remind everybody that we're having the Fishing Online giveaway, $50 gift certificate. All you got to do is like Smitty Fisher on Instagram, Fishing Online on Instagram, like theirs, and then tag someone on Fishing Online's. Seth, I want to give you guys a chance to thank whoever you want to thank. I'll start with you.
Oh, just thank you for having me, and Matt jumping on and talking with us. And this was awesome, and talk a little safety, and hopefully someone takes that advice and never has to use it. So thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks Kurt for doing this and having me on, and as always, thanks to Seth for being a massive supporter of all the kayak clubs out there that are out there in the country. That you've been a staple in the support of growing this sport, and from the beginning. And I can't tell you enough how much we all appreciate Fishing Online and what they've done I know specifically for myself and for a lot of the clubs here in West Virginia and Ohio that I support. It's just you guys do a great job. And I thank you for all that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And I want to thank everyone who's listening. Please continue on to listen, and I hope you guys learned something. And we will catch you out in the water.
Thanks, guys.